Start in one key and just do it as plain Jane as possible, probably at first. Just going. Oh, I didn't do it plain Jane enough. And then the 5 chord, non-functioning, to the 4 chord, and then the 1 chord. And then the 5 chord functioning to the 1 chord. Yeah, anyway, that's what I'm getting at. Just jam on it forever and ever and have fun with it. That's what Gilbert does. He has fun. Everything he plays, he just has fun. That's his secret. So, yeah, man. And then try it in another key. Let's just talk through it real quick. E, we do the same progression. 1 chord, 4 chord, 1 chord, 5 chord, 4 chord, 1 chord, 5 chord, and then repeat. Yeah, the 1 chord. The short version is where you do 2 measures of the 1 chord, 1 measure of the 4 chord, 1 measure of the 1 chord, 1 measure of the 5 chord, 1 measure of the 4 chord, 1 measure of the 1 chord, 1 measure of the 5 chord. Yeah. And then just practice it and then try a new key. So if we were in the key of E, what's the 1 chord? Yeah. Good. Yeah. And we're doing all dominant stuff, so it would be E7. And what pentatonic do you play there? Yep. E minor pentatonic. And then what's the 4 chord going to be? Yeah. So what pentatonic are you going to play there? Yeah, but what's the root? No, not the 4 chord from the A, right? Right, yeah. Do you remember the rule? Like, if it's non-functioning, you start from the what? Yeah, the 3rd, exactly. So what's the 3rd of A? C sharp. So you do C sharp minor pentatonic over the A, and you flat the 5. So then it goes back to the 1 chord. You play the minor pentatonic from the root of the 1 chord. Then it goes to the 5 chord. Now the 5 chord is what? What is the 5 chord? Mm-hmm. Right, B7. And because it's non-functioning, we start from what? We do our minor pentatonic starting from what? Well, it's the same question that you had for the A chord, right? The A chord was non-functioning, so you started the minor pentatonic from the what? Exactly. So that's going to be the case no matter what, if it's a non-functioning. So the B7 chord, it's going to go to an A7, so you know it's not functioning. So where are you going to start from? B7 is the 5 chord. If it's going to a 4 chord afterwards, we know it's not functioning. The answer's the same in a way. You need to start from the 3rd, right? When you did the A7 chord, it was non-functioning, so you started from the 3rd. The B7 is going to be non-functioning, so you start from the 3rd. no matter what it is, if it's non-functioning, you can use his trick starting from the third. The only thing it changes is what is the third, right? The third of A was C sharp. What's the third of B? Right, D sharp. Exactly. So you play D sharp minor pentatonic, and then you'd flat the fifth of that pentatonic. And yeah, it's way trickier. Try this out. Pick a, or you know what? We could talk more about it next week, and you could just practice it in a couple keys this week. Kind of like more hands. We could stretch it out over a couple weeks because it's pretty intense, pretty interesting too. What do you think about this? We talk about it again next week. So get it as good as you can, in whatever key you feel comfortable with. Just enjoy it, practice it a lot, have fun with it. Be sure you're certain before you play a certain pentatonic, whatever. And then next week we'll talk about it more, and I'll kind of quiz you on it more. I'll try to make you come up with answers to hard questions until it's easy. Okay. All right. Do you have any questions, dude? Well, basically here's the thing. We know you could play a minor pentatonic from the root of all of them, right? We wouldn't really learn anything from that. Like, let's say we were doing it in the key of A. You play A minor pentatonic, and then we got a D, and you play D minor pentatonic, and then you go to A, and you do A minor pentatonic, and then you go to the E7, you play E minor pentatonic, to D, and then to the E. I did maybe a couple extra notes, but E minor pentatonic. And then that's it. So you could play minor pentatonic from the root of all of them. If you can do it for one, you can do it for all the others. The Paul Gilbert trick, he does two of them basically. So it's kind of like, that's even like, if it was if our lessons weren't so hardcore, we'd do one a week, But there's two tricks. One is start a minor pentatonic from the third of the dominant chord and flat the fifth of the pentatonic. That you could do on all of them if you wanted. You could do that on all of them, really. Then the second trick only applies to functioning dominant chords, which is where you start from the fourth and you flat the root of that pentatonic, which is so kind of misleading. But if you can follow that train of thought, that's the way he's thinking. So for example, I just demonstrated playing minor pentatonic from the root of all of the chords. If I did the Gilbert trick, then over the A chord, I would start from the third and flat the five. Cool. And then we go to the D chord, and I would start from the third, F sharp. And then it goes back to the A. So I'll do that from the third again. Oh. All right, and then back and so forth. And then finally we get to the 5 chord, which is going to be E7. So he starts from the third and does a minor pentatonic flatting the fifth. So we could do that on all of them. You see what I'm talking about? And the other one you can only do over altered chords, which is the E7 as it goes back to the A. Then you could play... Oh, sorry. I always mess that up. Back to the 1. So there's really 2 tricks. It's this simple. If I were to boil down the entirety of it, for dominant chords, his first trick really, is you start a minor pentatonic from the third of the chord, but you have to flat the fifth for that to work. Flat the fifth of the pentatonic. That's it. If that were written down still yet somehow more clearly than how I just said it, dominant chord, start from the third, play a minor pentatonic, flat the fifth of the pentatonic. That's the rule. That you can do that over any pentatonics or any dominant chord. Cool? Functioning or non-functioning. Although if somebody plays an altered chord, then it's not going to sound all that good because you're going to have tones that conflict with the altered scale. But if you're in a blues scenario, somebody's probably not going to play an altered chord. They could, but probably not. They're probably going to play just sevens. Like that. That wasn't altered. So in that case, you could just play from the third every time, flatting the fifth of the pentatonic. That's basically all there is to it. Then there's the second one, which is the altered, which is where you start from the fourth of the chord and then flat the root of that pentatonic. Cool, man? Exactly. So if we were in the key of C, the 5 chord would be G. So you would start from the C to play my pentatonic, but you have to flat the root. And then you're back to your C for the C chord. To the F chord where he plays back to the 1. To the 5, I'll do to the 5 altered. And I did that, which is actually a major 7, but it's so trilly that I should be able to get away with it because it's a flutter in that point. Cool?